Hello and welcome to the D2C podcast. I'm Eric Dick. Today we are highlighting a new project that I've been working on in partnership with Chris Rempel, the lazy marketer, called Avant Post, which roughly translated means forward outpost, which is what we consider this publication to be, a forward outpost on the forefront of digital marketing. Our upcoming issue is called Opening Pandora's Search Box, and it's all about how Google plans to deal or looks like it's going to be dealing with the AI innovators dilemma, a tool that can help revolutionize their product offering at the same time as it might jeopardize their product offerings future at the same time. Quite a conundrum. We discuss this exact issue, the lazy marketer and I, on the most recent Avant Post podcast with rogue ex-Googler Ben Kruger. You may know him from his Twitter infamy, but he's an outspoken guy with a ton of experience on the Google platform, both while he was there and now currently in his new role. Ben's a great guy. I had a great conversation. I hope you enjoy this. You should also go search up Avant Post on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, where the bulk of you listen, and go subscribe there, because we're going to be dropping these once a month, these deeper dive podcasts. We'll also be posting them for the first few months, at least on the D2C stream as well. But go subscribe to Avant Post. If you like the Avant Post podcast, leave us a review. That helps us get discovered more. Otherwise, hope you enjoy it. On with the show.
On maybe my main business, Event Ticket Center, we sell thousands of tickets a day to a variety of different events. And we don't have a data analyst. And I'm trying to build our marketing strategy. I had 5 questions in my head since I started 3 months ago. I didn't want to hire someone because of all the nuances that go into that. And then this rolled out. I found it a couple days ago, and I just uploaded some sales data, and I've been asking it the exact questions, and it's figured it all out. And then I can ask it, how would you use this data to market? I read this concept of having a team of AI wranglers, people that are using AI to find different topics to write about, and that's just their sole job. I see a lot of people on Twitter be like, what would you do if you found out your employees were doing their whole job with AI? And 70% of the people are like, oh, fire them or pay them less. But I think it's a great skill to have in your workforce. So they can probably triple their output and do much better work. It's I want to triple down on that versus try to stomp it out.
Welcome back to the Avant Post podcast. Today we're with Ben Kruger, an ex-Googler, and we're here to talk about the future of search given these AI curveballs that are being lobbed at us kind of incessantly. And so, Ben, why don't we just start learn a bit about you, get a sense of your background and kind of what your story is.
My background on Ben, just real quick, is he came onto the scene onto social media, and I call him Ben Kruger, the rogue ex-Googler, because even when you were in Google, you came in as the cool rep. You came in and you were the cool Google rep who was willing to say some of the things that I feel like many others were, and I bet that endeared you quite a bit with your clients and in the Google ecosystem. So, and then I know that you left Google, and I know you had some good posts about what it was like working at the Big G. So I thought you might have a good perspective maybe on some of these developments and the challenging position that Google finds itself in. I think of it a little bit like Indiana Jones in that temple where he's trying to replace that statue with something that weighs exactly the same without triggering all those terrible traps. Because I feel like they're potentially in that position where if they do it wrong, they could get crushed by a giant boulder that they unleash.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so it's funny. I've met so many great people on Twitter. Absolutely love it. And I haven't downloaded Threads, for the record. I just want to put that on record because in 6 months when it dies out and everyone else wasted their time there. Anyways, I've been in e-commerce for probably 12 years now. I've worked at a few different startups. Funny enough, I'm wearing an old t-shirt from Bluecore. Didn't mean that at all, but it's a CRM retention platform. And just fell in love with the data side of it, the strategy side of it, and the creativity needed to, acquire new customers and keep other customers longer. Worked my way through a variety of startups and then ended up at Google, where I got to basically consult with hundreds of high growth e-commerce brands on Google Ads. And I at some point downloaded Twitter, probably like last October, November, and I was going through a bunch of thoughts on like what I wanted to do with my career. And I met a bunch of people there that really enlightened me. And I think I realized that we as Google reps were so siloed in our thinking of only thinking about Google, and there was so much more going on outside of us. And it just really all these gears started to turn in my head. And I wanted to go brand side, and had been working with a company called Event Ticket Center for 2 years as their Google rep. It's, a giant ticket reselling platform for concerts, sports, all these events. And, they're like masters at Google search, and I was able to join them as CMO. So now full time there. And we're thinking about the things that we're going to talk through a lot of AI, a lot of SEO, search experiences. That's the main driver for this business. So super relevant. And yeah, it's like, this stuff is all that I think about. So I'm really excited you guys asked me to join, and it's great to meet you.
Oh, likewise. Thank you. It's, I guess, Eric, you're mentioning before, the Indiana Jones conundrum that Google is in, where we see, the obvious kind of race towards generative AI and generative search results, right? Where that's a catch-22 for Google. It, obviously their bread and butter are the ad slots, the inline text ads, right? So what happens with that? What happens with content publishing incentives, all that kind of stuff. And so, maybe Ben, from your experience, like in working at Google and kind of understanding how they think, how do you think Google would be approaching this current, let's call it innovators dilemma?
Yeah, I think there's two thoughts. So one, I was on the ad sales team. So, we were basically, we used to joke that we were just selling clicks. It's obviously a lot more than that, but that's where the majority of the revenue comes from your point. So there's the commercial business side of things where, of course, that's their profit center and they're not going to want to disrupt that. But if you take the more googly answer to this, their mission is to like organize the world's information and make it accessible to everybody. So if they stick to that, then this whole topic is about getting people the right information as easily and accessible as they can. And I think the conversational search result does that. Like, I personally I think that's a really shitty experience, like traditional Google search. Like, it's ads, and then it's a bunch of SEO creeps, like doing all this funky stuff to get to the top. It's not that, like you think of like a recipe, right? It's like,
totally.
I just want the recipe. They give you their whole life story. Like, I don't care about half the shit. So I think it's kind of broken and like ripe for disruption. So I think it's great for the user. If Google sticks to their mission of like truly trying to present the right information and make it accessible, then it could be a win-win if they really follow that. But if you're thinking on the monetary approach, how are they going to monetize that? Hopefully that's a secondary priority and they're like truly trying to get the information out. But if they let the street have the decision, then it becomes that Indiana Jones thing that we can definitely talk further about.
We're probably, we're probably even overthinking a little bit of what Google's losing here, because we think about Google losing the first, they have the first slot of the best answer, and then there's the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth. But in reality, it's probably only those first 1, 2, 3 listings that are even ever getting any attention anyway. So, but like you say, Google's mission is to serve the right information. They're now gonna serve you the right information, served up to you directly, rather than kind of making you search through these other options. And maybe we're not losing out on as much choice as we think. Their algorithm will be so diverse that it'll be able to detect all the subtle differences in your queries to figure out what you're going to convert best with out there and just serve that one.
100%. Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, it's lofty, it's hard to do, but if anyone can do it, they've got the user data, which to your point can personalize the responses based on everything they know about you. And then they've got all the content data and should be able to mix and match that to get like personalized, great experiences for everybody, way better than what's happening now.
I wonder about, let's say they are able to create these perfect 300-word kind of like condensed answers for everything. That you'd think that's going to drive down the CTR and the clicks out to organic publishers that, is being cited. And you'd think, unless there's some magical ad format that I'm not thinking of right now, you're probably going to see less traffic flow out to advertisers. I wonder how they sort of square that circle.
Yeah. You may, but like it could also just get so like they could do the selling for you, right? Like here are the best running shoes, here's why, click here to buy it. And like maybe like the whole PDP and that game goes away where like the results within search are so good at selling it and it's recommending like 3 instead of and like as I think about this out loud, like today you get the top spot by paying the most. But I think in this world, it's way more about the content that you've got if you really want to appear in those results. So you've got to be able to give a lot of context and signals to get embedded into those results and get recommended. So for our business, like we're really trying to get ahead of the curve. Like people are looking up things about concert venues. Where do I park? Where do I do this and that? Like it doesn't, like those people already have tickets. So it doesn't necessarily translate to direct monetization, but there's a lot of reputation that you can gain with Google. And, the more they serve you, the more they trust you and things like that. So we're trying to get ahead of it I just want to get into those results. Like we'll think about as a client, as a business, we'll monetize that later. But, I think it just brings more, like it's going to be top quality content getting in there and better experiences for everybody. And if Google makes a better product, then more people are going to use it and they're sticky and then they can monetize it later.
My guess are that impressions will go down. Like you'll get a little bit less visibility, like you might as you're scanning a top-down funnel, but your click-through rate should go way up. You know what I mean? Like the actual click and conversion rate could be astronomical if they're serving just the best offer and nothing else. Like we know that confusion of that choice leads to quite often in the marketing experience. So if you're just being served up the perfect thing with good reasons, with like multi-dimensional reasons, right? Whether it's you're in this location, like we know this about you because you searched this last time, it should be able to really meet people where they're at more so than ever before.
Do you not see that though turning to consolidation, where it's just like, it's a whole exciting world of like Procter and Gamble now? Like, are we only going to see big brand? You know what I mean? Like that's what I worry about.
Yeah, sure. That's a good call out.
Consolidation is the move.
But yeah, like ideally it's some sort of auction system to take that away from somehow to take that away from the giants. I was going to say though, a lot of this kind of already exists today. Like they've got the frequently asked questions, they're pulling weather in, like a lot of it does exist today. Probably more than we realize when you think about it. Like there's all the drop downs with the questions and they highlight things. Like a lot of this is happening today in the traditional experience. It's just going to change the UI and UX of it.
AI already knows us better than any other AI in the world, probably. The Google out probably knows us better, knows our intent, what we're actually looking for, more than anything else. So I'm excited for this future.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the technology. I'm always impressed by what happens. I guess so. I was one of those SEO creeps in a past life, and so I didn't have recipe sites. I wasn't, explaining the 5,000-year history of cheese to make grilled cheese sandwiches. But just being a smaller publisher, I do sort of see it from that perspective, where like you can build topical authority and sort of own like a honed down niche, and that in the current regime works okay. What I worry about with this sort of generative stuff is that you just sort of get the Wikipediaization of kind of everything, and so even your prior comment, and I think it's accurate. Like you'll probably see more and more of the funnel get eaten up by basically Google real estate, right? And no question, that's going to be better for conversions. It's going to be better for a lot, but you basically peel away more and more of the customer experience from the actual brands, right? So it's sort of like Google becomes Amazon in some ways,
Absolutely.
Totally. Yep. And it's just going to get more efficient at selling. I was reading up on what they are, because they're putting out quite a bit of information right now, obviously, about what, giving people, I've watched all those videos about what, the Google search experience might look like. with AI fully enabled. But this AI enabled cognitive search, basically, where they're going to be combining like multimedia, combining websites, combining images and video and text. In like you can just see how immersive and a funnel it will be. And that it makes me think of like I think the other big issue for Google is just how much it like takes other people's content. I think isn't that that's what's happening in Canada right now, right? How we basically Google takes all of aggregates all of Canada's news, but ends up like just serving it to people as text in a way that doesn't allow them to monetize, right? So I think Google's like pulling news for Canadians, or there's some issue there. What do you think about that, Chris?
Well, I mean, I won't get into the incredible competence of our current leadership, but I think the intent behind this bill that Parliament passed was good. It's impractical and just not going to work. So I think Google kind of put their hands up and then said, "Screw it, we'll just pull all news links about Canada from our platform." And so, not really a solution, but, it does highlight an issue, right? And it's, this is a bigger topic about like media, what's the role of media in the future, and that kind of stuff. But, from Google's perspective, you can see that when there's too much regulatory pressure on something, in this case, Canadian news, it's easier for them just to axe it, right?
Just opt out.
Yeah.
So they were, just so I follow, they were doing like I think what you were getting at before of like taking content and giving it for free, stripping the clicks away. Yeah, so it's good for the user. Like I get the information right when I look for it, but the publisher is missing out on all the downstream revenue and impact that they would typically have gotten.
Totally.
Exactly.
And right. So our politicians, based on their like 1989 level understanding of how the internet works, wanted to charge Google and Meta literally for every URL that they post to a news publisher. And so kind of insane. Anyway.
And this is going to be a bigger problem. This what they're rolling out will do more of that. It'll eat up more of people's content and make it more digestible. And I don't know, maybe strip it out more. It makes me think of what Twitter's doing now, though. Twitter just announcing.
I was about to say that.
That Twitter's now paying users for their tweets. It's kind of the opposite thing that Google's doing there.
Right, but maybe if they serve your content, you should get a CPM. I don't know, something out of it, right? Like, but that could be a solution. Like, it probably won't be as lucrative as getting someone to your site, but like maybe there's a distribution there that fits nicely for everybody there.
That's a really good point. It kind of actually, Ben, in your experience at Google, like what was there a sense of how they viewed publishers? Like when we think about Twitter's incentivizing its users, trying to retain them from threads or whatever. Google is kind of an apex predator. I'm just curious how they view the actual publishers.
I actually didn't touch that world at all.
Okay.
I hadn't. I feel like ads, publishers, and SEO were like also like you couldn't talk. I think it was good,
right?
But like you couldn't talk to anyone else. There was no like cross contamination there, which is probably good for integrity purposes. So yeah, I hadn't run across any publisher side of the world there.
So they don't have like a dartboard where they just like choose which side.
Nice.
But yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think, and this is anecdotal, it's just kind of over the years you sort of see this stuff, but it seems like they have different rules for different categories of content, right? And so you'll see things like, let's call it informational content, things like recipes, for instance. They're a lot more likely to be put in the knowledge graph, or in this case, like generative. If it's product reviews, special rules apply to that. They want like firsthand kind of human-based stuff that they're going to wipe out if they can. Anything programmatic or just like low effort. If it's actually like your concert tickets, I think they'd be more friendly to programmatic because they realize it need where do I park at the Willie Nelson concert? Like, how do you generate that quickly so it's accurate, so it's just like there. And with products, e-commerce, again, similarly, like here's your options, here's whatever. It's more of a per product what do you call it, targeting, right?
It's dynamic too. It's such a moving target as an offer, right? Versus maybe a standard e-commerce product. You have such a dynamic, ever-changing world of keywords. One of my questions was, as a power user now on the Google side, how do you guys position yourselves against things like Performance Max, where they're taking more and more control out of your hands towards AI. You're not even generating your keywords in some cases. How do you guys approach the AI tools that they already have in place like that?
So PMAX is a very interesting thing here. So I went to Google Marketing Live, where they rolled all the AI like generative images out. They talked a lot about the new search experiences, and I started to think PMAX is actually the best advertising campaign vehicle to get into AI results. So there's no keywords. It's all contextual, and you're basically giving it a bunch of assets that it can mix and match with dynamically. You're giving it signals. Here are the types of audiences that I want to target. Here are the products I want to feature within this group of content that I'm giving you. So there's no way that it's a coincidence that all of this is happening at once. And I actually think I couldn't think, to your question, is how would you bid, and how would you bid on keywords in this environment? You wouldn't. There's no keyword anymore. It's all so unique that I actually think PMAX is the way to advertise here. It's a perfectly timed thing. It's keywordless. We're going keywordless. People think about have been talking about that for ages, but it's becoming more and more obvious.
But you have to generate context in that world then, right? It makes me think you have to, we've been preaching content marketing on the D2C side for years now, and all brands are kind of flowing into it. But it means that I think in that environment where it's generatively changing all the time, it behooves you to create all this content that Google can construct into the funnel for you in a way, right? I'm interested to see, the more content you put out there, the better of a breadcrumb trail that Google's able to set up for you, or be able to construct more of the funnel from it.
Yeah, because what a lot of people, Google made a huge push to moving to broad match keywords for Google Ads. And to anyone doing PPC for a long time, that would be the craziest thing to ever do. But broad match now is the only match type that uses content from your landing page as an additional signal. So it's not only looking at what you're bidding on, but it's looking at all the content of your landing page to match to users' queries. So they're now, to your point, looking for all of the content that you have available to make sure it's themed and it's accurate and it's actually going to answer this question. And anytime I have this conversation, it just becomes more and more obvious to me that it's a less control, just more tight content and signals to give to the AI, give you the best chance to appear in whatever this experience is going to look like.
I'm so interested to see how it goes, because we used to call Google sometimes, I think, a bit of a fuck you platform, in a way where if you just go to it out of the box and you put your money into it, it will go. It will try to spend your money in multi directions. And even just a recent podcast with PMAX, it's getting smarter about that. But at the same time, you're opening up the channels that it can access you through. So I imagine that the path forward with Google is still going to be, best navigated by those that are doing A/B testing against all of these crazy AI rollouts, and then also doing things manually and making sure that you figure out those little things that you have to turn off that will ruin your results. I wonder if that's still the case.
Very much so, unfortunately. Yeah, you got you can't enable everything that they recommend. So you do need to have that level of savviness, which is scary. If a small business is starting up, they're just, to your point, going to blow the budget, probably overspend too, and then never use it again.
Well,
you need those controls.
On the small business side too, I'm sure as the algorithm improves or whatever, they'll need less and less of a sample size to sort of optimize for it. But, PMAX, the way I understood it last year anyway, was that, it's kind of, for now, your budget has to be kind of at a certain point where there's enough for it to work with, right? So, I wonder, as we sort of continue going into this AI, keywordless future, let's say, on the marketing side, Is it really just like, can that budget threshold of usefulness come down to something that makes sense for like a flower shop, that kind of thing? You know what I mean?
Which is always their goal. Like Google wants to go as local and as broad as possible. Or in my experience working on the platform, they were always seem to be doing things to try to enable the grassroots. Like, I think they're always going to want the big, deep budgets of the companies. But I'm interested to see if that trend continues with this, or as you were saying earlier, if they do just get onto Unilever and these big conglomerations. My guess is they're still going to want it as grassroots as possible, because then you have more people using it.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. I'll ask you guys though, like, seeing how obvious AI, the implications that it has to all of digital, like they have to make this change, right?
They have to. Yeah. The boulder's coming either way. You know what I mean?
Right.
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 I looked at, like, it was so funny seeing Bing roll out Bing Chat or whatever, like especially that first interview their CEO did. I was just laughing. It's like, Bing at that point, it was such an awesome moment in some ways because they have nothing to lose. Like they've already lost all their market share, and they have this crazy new thing that's like clearly everyone can see this is a potential paradigm shift. And, it was so funny that they were first, right? And I don't agree. Whether Bing had designs on actually taking the market or trying to do some big move, what it did do is it forced Google to roll out, to open the hangar and roll out the prototype, and here's Bard or whatever. And it's like you say, the inevitable is kind of accelerated. I'm sure if Google could have chosen their battle, they would have waited, right? That'd be my take.
Yeah. But the search experience today, maybe because now we know what it could be, is just so lackluster. But but you're right. Probably 6 months ago, I would not have thought twice about that. How much better it could be.
Right.
I wonder what their timeline is for making these big changes that, like, we're seeing hints about them. And I guess just this year kind of thing, we're going to start to see more and more of these changes roll out over time aggressively, I bet.
Yeah.
Super interesting. So is Bard released? I haven't actually used it yet because I don't think it's available in the States. Or maybe it is.
Yeah,
no,
I haven't
even used it. How do you use it compared to how you might use ChatGPT or Midjourney?
It's funny. I use Bard when I'm doing like Google Ads headlines and like very specific Google stuff. And I had been using it a lot more, and then I just got GPT-4, which this code interpreter. Right. I don't know if you guys have dabbled with that yet. It's like slacking with a data analyst, and you don't have to deal with like HR or like paying them, or it's just like, and it has really shocked me of how it'll take this file and like, oh, it looks like these headers mean this data might be sorted wrong. Let me fix that for you. It's mind blowing. So I've really weaned off of Bard, and I'm like full GPT now, I think.
Interesting. I've just been using GPT to create my Midjourney prompts. Like, it's just amazing how when you can get these systems to talk to each other. And I think so much of this AI revolution is going to be figuring out, how to get all these systems to talk to each other seamlessly to produce the results we want. But we're just entering this era where you're just going to be able to like speak what you want into existence. I was just following Sidekick, Shopify's announcement this week, and build me an e-commerce store, move my collections page here, all of that stuff that that they're putting, all the data they're putting at the fingertips of people. It's like it's just such an exciting time to start seeing all these applications roll out that will really be not just like create cool little images here and there, but actually get to a point where humans can, like I say, speak their reality into existence. And the same thing will be in that search bar, right? Where it'll the whole concept of of this passive search, like you enter something into a search box, you get this result, like that will that whole paradigm is kind of shifting to the point where you'll be part of this experience about what do you actually want? What are you trying to manifest here? And hopefully Google can help. Brave new world.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the agents that could actually do the thing, like, is also very exciting to me. I don't think it's great yet. I haven't really dabbled with it, but I've heard it's not great. But of just like tell me about this. Okay, now book it, or like get me that reservation, whatever it is. If that really comes to fruition, that's game changing.
And then my big thing, I talk about this all the time, but it's like we're all going to get our own AI butlers, right? And then because then so much of that grunt work can be done by our AI butlers talking. Like you'll set your parameters about how you want your AI butler to engage the world and engage other AIs. And then they'll become your agent in this metaverse or whatever. They'll be the ones brokering your deals for your personal data if we ever get there. They'll be the ones, finding the right things. Like search may become like you may end up having like an agent that you even go before you even go search because it knows what you might want to search even before you're typing it in.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Let's go. Future.
Chris, can we talk SEO?
Let's do it
with AI. So I see all these guys tweet like, I just made a 55,000 page website using like AI, OpenAI API and like programmatically pushing it to WordPress. Like, what are they doing and does it work?
What are they doing? I don't know exactly, but it works for a bit, and sometimes it works for a while. And so, like, I mean, just full disclosure, like I was SEO like 10 years ago. So our version of programmatic was basically like ad lib, like word replacement, across some database fed thing. So these days it's, obviously a lot different. What I see though is it's basically like a programmatic fill in the blanks kind of like template that they'll put out across, like you say, a 50,000 word or 50,000 page thing. It might be what's the word I'm looking for? Like query based. So it'll pull queries out of like Search Console for like impressions and then start building like content automatically on that. So you'll have like this adaptive self-feeding machine. And yeah, I mean, it seems to like these things go straight up and then basically straight down, right? From what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's very good. Very interesting.
I've heard they're not actively punishing, and who knows, this could change all the time and maybe there's degrees to it, but I've heard that they sort of made a statement that they're not punishing out of the gate AI generated text as a rule. Because I think most engines can now detect with reasonable certainty, AI generated text. What do you think?
Well, I mean, just real quick on my end, I followed this quite closely. Danny Sullivan used to write for Search Engine Land. Now he's kind of like Google's liaison and for SEOs. And they actually changed the Webmaster Guidelines to change the wording to span. Like it used to be like robot generated content was like a no-go. Now it's low quality or spammy robot generated content or human for that matter. And so it seems like they've changed their stance where, again, I think it's facing the inevitable. Like there's just no stopping it. And then on the other side, I think it goes to like they want to see human editing. So I think you'll see a lot of signals around, again, oh, this site came out of nowhere. Now it has 50,000 pages. What does that say, right? So you can still build it with AI, but if it's organic, it's at a meaningful pace. It's topical. It's been like edited. I think that's what they're looking for. And I think from what I see, it's not a problem.
Good to know.
The other thing I was going to mention
Start cranking some stuff out. Yeah.
Oh, totally. So those detectors, I have less faith in those. And speaking of faith, someone put the book of Genesis from the Bible through that AI detector, and it came back as like a 98% likelihood of AI. So
no.
What?
So,
oh, no.
Either we're living in an AI simulation, or maybe there's some issues with those detectors.
I don't think it would be an Avant Post episode if we didn't get into simulation theory. So I think it's really funny. The simulation theory. One of the main proofs for simulation theory is that like, hey, we're developing games that simulate reality. So if you follow that through, there must be other civilizations that had tried to create simulations. And the same thing is true for what we're creating in AI. We're creating this AI brain. And it's sort of like in doing it, proving that, maybe we are some weird quantum AI brain as well. And we're...
Yes.
It's amazing.
I don't know why this visual of like nest eggs are in my head of like, it's all just a simulation. Like it's all just like steps, like
Yeah.
all rolling up to a bigger, is that part of I don't know the theory.
It's just turtles all the way down.
It?
It's just turtles I think I've heard it's just turtles all the way down.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know what base reality would be in a world with simulation. It'd be too, yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's this. I think we know. I think the quantum, the prize for physics, Nobel Prize for Physics, last year proved that the universe, or that consciousness is neither non-physical and non-local. So actually, the Nobel Prize proved that our consciousnesses are actually probably somewhere else, and we're just kind of beaming them into these meat vessels. Yeah, that was kind of. Maybe we'll do the next one on the.
Yeah, that'll be the next essay on Avant Post. Meat vessels.
Let's go. Edible tumors. Let's do it.
It's a good point though on sort of. There's a couple things that go through my head. One is like, when will this be good enough that when you're chatting with GPT or whatever, that it crosses the uncanny valley where, there's sort of that synthetic, like, ultimately it's just like a non-entity, right? But it's getting quite good already, right, in text format. So it's almost like we'll move from one medium to the next. You'll have audio next maybe, and then video or whatever. There's a lot of implications here for, not just Google, but like everything, right?
Companionship. I just watched this video yesterday, and there was these two. It was on the Lex Friedman podcast actually, and it was it was like a real hardware, like super nerd that he had on, and he was talking about this box that he's creating that's going to have like, I don't know, like 3 petaflops. I don't even know what that is, but it's like 3 petaflops of computing power in this like 4-foot little like monolith that you put in a room in your house, and it gives everyone the power for like full simulation generative AI, to the point where they started saying this is where you get into that like girlfriend boyfriend territory. This is where you get into that her world, right? Where you could have or the Blade Runner world, where you go home and you put in your little thing, and then you've got these projectors that project your girlfriend all around your living room or whatever. And we've gone off the rails here. We're not talking about
Sounds
search
great,
anymore.
Though.
But yeah, we could all get our own Scarlett Johansson, in the next 5 years.
It's back to, I guess, like, let's say the organic content of like, people that create this stuff that Google then gobbles up again. Like if generative gets this good, what's their role? Like why even bother, right? Even on Google's side, it's like, well, do we need this stuff? And so, I wonder if in the role of the content creator is almost like you're creating models that are good enough for Google to use, or for whether it's Google or Bing or whatever platform. It's like if you're the source, or if you're like the seed, I guess, of these thoughts that AIs can build on, like, is that the new content? You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah, let me play that out, because if back to this like SEO thing, right? If I'm using Bard, just to keep it all within the Google family, to create SEO optimized blog posts, like, and then trying to drive traffic from search to that page that was created by Google in the first place, this is not needed. Like, they have the answer. I got it from them, and I'm just repurposing it. Like, they could just totally strip that out. But I really like your point in that the data's there, but it needs someone to prompt it to get that output. And like, maybe that's the value that the user brings.
Right.
For the content creator. Yeah.
Right. Because then content creator is almost like end user requester, right?
Yeah. Right.
Which is wild. And so it's like it reverses the the system, right?
Completely.
And probably builds your content into the results, builds who you are and what you've put into the system. Also probably plays into how that data is served to you. Maybe you love the 3,000 word preamble before you get to your recipe, so Google will know that and just serve you amalgamations.
My personal favorite is all the slow loading ads that like break the page load. That's my personal favorite.
There was an interesting theory on the. Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Just going back to like Threads and Facebook versus Google a little bit. Like, threads could, so in thinking of like how to get personalized information to use an AI to get better outputs, like threads gives Meta all of this now written content that they can tie to users. It's tied to your Instagram account, which is tied to a million other things. And it's like so much easier to get the metadata out of text than obviously imagery and reels and whatnot. And it just is really going to help their ability to learn about their users and personalize ads further. And it could just be like a data grab, like maybe like, we're thinking it's like a thing like versus Elon, but maybe it's just a data grab to beef up their models and ability to monetize their data, which is really interesting to me.
Well, that's a really interesting point, because, Facebook has that issue where they're an app and they don't have any devices, right?
Right.
Where Google's like they have Chrome, right?
Chrome, yeah.
And so Facebook is, it's been stuck in that weird spot, and that goes to another point of like, Google or anyone, what happens as the privacy vice gets tightened around the world, right? As this stuff kind of comes home to roost. Already we're looking at, Google with Chrome keeps threatening this like death of the third-party cookie with this apparent solution that they have, but it's going to happen at some point. And, they'll need some way of learning their user that isn't just modeled. Or maybe that's enough. I don't know. But like the threads, that's a really interesting point. I never thought about that.
Yeah, Elon owning the public square. I think that has always been his play, right? Is you get a kind of data on Twitter, that's not just reactive. It's not just like, here's what I want kind of thing. It's like, here's what I think, here's who I am. And I think that level of data is just, it's like, and it's like you say, Ben, it's just so easily digestible in that text format. I get like 20, I haven't been on Threads since I got it, but I get like 30 notifications a day. Oh, another person that also follows me here, also follows me there. It's been a really interesting rollout. It's like one of the first rollouts of its kind that's like, just like, added on to such an existing platform. So I'm really interested to see how it does. I wanted to ask you, Ben, though, like you mentioned a little bit earlier about your stack. And I feel like the coolest thing about AI right now is that every person has their own real private use case, and everyone has the opportunity to be innovative in like how specifically they use AI in their job. And as someone who relies so heavily in your ticketing business on Google, how before Google launches all these crazy AI advanced features, how are you using AI? What does your AI stack look like right now to scale your biz as CMO?
I can share. I was actually just working on something today for a separate side hustle for this. I drop ship like little
mics. I saw
wireless microphones.
Oh, cool!
Yeah, that's a great biz.
So it's a bunch of content creators buying the product, right? They want to make TikToks and Reels, etc. And I've been trying to find courses that I can sell them on how to make better content. And I've been like, now my Instagram feed is all just these people selling their courses, and like, but none of them have affiliate programs. Like I haven't been able to find it. So today I spent probably 45 minutes, and I just used ChatGPT, and I said, build me 100 content ideas for people to post on Reels and TikTok. So did that. I then plugged that into Canva, created a nice PDF, and I'm going to email it to all of my existing customers, and then offer them a $6 a month subscription to a newsletter, a daily newsletter of content ideas. And I'm literally just going to build this whole, and I had GPT write that email and the content for the landing page for this free product. And then every day I'm just going to have it send an email about, here are 20 new ideas. So that's like,
nice.
So it was, my dropshipping store is a one product store, and I'm trying to build other things. And instead of like, there's no cogs with that, right? It's fully digital, it's subscription, and it's going to be all AI generated. And that's my theory is people who have bought this will probably buy anything, because it's like a shitty product through Facebook ads. So I think it's like just a very easy audience to monetize. So I want to try to do it all through AI. That's like one stack on the side thing. And then on maybe my main business with Event Ticket Center, we sell thousands of tickets a day to a variety of different events, rock concerts, hip hop concerts, sporting games, whatever.
EDM
And we don't
festivals.
have a data analyst. EDM festivals, yeah, you jump in the river naked, I heard.
Yeah.
We don't have a data analyst. And, you know, I have so many, and I'm like trying to build our marketing strategy and on what events to promote, how to do it. And I had like 5 questions in my head since I started 3 months ago of very specific things I wanted to know. And I literally couldn't find, like, I didn't want to hire someone because of all the nuances that go into that. And then this rolled out, I found it a couple of days ago, and I just uploaded some sales data and I've been asking it the exact questions, and it's figured it all out. And then I can ask it, like, how would you use this data to market? Like, what are some strategies you would do? And it gives you just high level ideas. So my stack as CMO is like, let's put things into it, ask it questions about the data, and then I can go activate it with the team. And then I think we're doing some other SEO based content strategies and like parking guides and things like that. We're trying to, I read this concept, I don't know where I found it, but of having a team of AI wranglers. So like just people that are using AI to research and come up with and find different topics to write about. And like, that's just their sole job.
To innovate. So like to innovate on AI basically within the business.
Yeah. Right. And it's such a big I think it's such a big opportunity that I see a lot of people on Twitter be like, what would you do if you found out your employees were like doing their whole job with AI? And like 70% of the people are like, oh, fire them or pay them less. But I think it's great. I think that's a great skill to have in your workforce. So like they could probably triple their output and do much better work. It's like, I want to triple down on that versus like, try to stomp it out.
You're not going to be replaced by AI, but you're going to be replaced by someone who uses AI, who's really good at using AI, right? Like I think that's the predicament we're in a bit.
Totally. If I was a business intelligence platform listening to that right now, I would be very worried. That's incredible. Is it Copilot? I don't know. It's code. What's it called again?
Code interpreter.
Code interpreter.
Code interpreter. Yeah.
Like it's the coolest thing I've played with.
They say 5 years. Really developers are on a time clock, and it's funny. Like developers have been like the wizards of our era, right? Like they speak these arcane languages and can bring all these things into existence. And I've worked with developers my whole tech career, and it's crazy to think that the most highly specialized position in the tech world are going to be one of the first biggest jobs to potentially go away or get reduced to many fewer people who are using. I saw GitHub. I saw like 40% of the code that's on GitHub now is AI generated. They think.
I've heard it's incredible. Yeah,
that's wild. You know.
Yeah, but like, so if I'm using this code thing and I know nothing about data science, but if I were a data scientist, you've got to think that it would be they'd be like really pushing it.
Right.
Yeah. So I think as the co-pilot aspect for all of this just really helps. So I think if you're really specialized in something and have this co-pilot, it's so much better. So maybe it doesn't reduce workforce. It just like the outputs just become way bigger.
Well, and back to your stack, Eric was asking about like, what's the stack? In some ways, you could almost look at it like your stack is now a stack of smart questions, right? It's like you know what questions and inputs to ask, the supercomputer, right? HAL 9000, right? Like what to ask, right? And so in a way, it's like we're going to our maximum, I don't know what you want to call it, destiny, I guess, as a human operator, right? Where it's like the middle work and the craft part of it gets automated, right? And so,
right.
We're gonna for someone to exist in this world in the tech space, even as a junior, you have to learn how to be strategic really quick. You know what I mean?
The way that I'm most excited about is something where I shouldn't tease it too much because we're going to launch it in the next little while, but we've actually created Chat DTC. We fed it all of our content, all of our podcasts, all of our newsletters, And we have this thing when you sign up where you get an email that says, hey, thanks for signing up. We're here to help you with your challenges. Email me your biggest marketing challenge. And we've actually just rigged it up now so that when you write in your biggest marketing challenge, we can actually auto send a dynamic email from Dot, our digital, technician or whatever. We're kind of trying to keep it ambiguous, but you'll get, and it's like, hey, you're interested in product market fit. Here are the 3 podcasts we did on product market fit. Here are the clips. Here's the pieces we wrote, kind of thing. And everyone is going to get a custom message. And I feel like this is the other big part, like obviously targeting and campaign creation, all these things, but actually being able to dynamically, work with customers directly. I'm really excited about it. And it's like, I think this is one of the big trends. We're using chatbase.co, but my friend Tony from Vessi is actually building his own like avatar builder where basically, you basically put in all your information and then it would, like, it's my exit plan for how I don't have to do podcasts for the rest of my life. Just create a digital dick. Just sit me down in the chair. It will know how to ask all the questions. It'll bring up the matrix at the right time. It'll be great.
First of all, that's awesome. Secondly, did you guys see, there's this big thing in Hollywood now. I forget what studio. Anyway, they're trying to get the rights to the avatars of the actors now. And so like they'll like do a 3D scan and like, Scarlett Johansson will have to go and like, whatever. And then like Warner Brothers will own her digital twin or whoever, right?
Wow.
And like, that's crazy,
Yeah. Especially because then everyone could own their digital twin, like you could just, that's kind of creepy.
We're going to make a simulation in 6 months, right? Like it's all just so obvious. It just cascades to that every time.
But Eric, on the interactive funnel, and Ben, I think this kind of overlaps as well with what you're doing with the tickets. What a profound thing now to have kind of like an intro conversation when your customers first interact or they buy their first Will and Elson ticket or whatever. And it's we're talking about how end users become creators now through this process. Well, now end users are like shaping this whole funnel, right? Mm-hmm. And like, that's incredible. Like it's so much better than anything we've been able to do. I've been thinking about for a while, like, oh my God, the third-party cookie is going to die. We're all screwed. But like, no, like AI opens up this entirely personalized loop that's first party, and it's like in your own ecosystem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys, going back to like what we were going to talk about, you're asking of like, does the search box go away? Is it dead? I think no. I think that lives on, but it's like the traditional publisher, and those guys are almost dead. And
even as a newsletter owner, it's like, is the newsletter the format? Like newsletters have gotten so much more popular just in the 3 years that we've started this. I was talking to someone recently, like we love your newsletter, but now there's also like 6 other newsletters that I have to read that there weren't before. But yeah, I'm interested to see like what the new media experience even is. Like if we're going into these immersive experiences that are all tailored for us, like it could change everything, right? Like, I think that's why we're trying to build Chat DTC as this other way to kind of engage our content and our brand. But there's a world where every single person could have their own D2C newsletter based on their first party data, right? And generate it on the fly. And people are doing that like crazy. Like what BuzzFeed now laid off huge percentage of their staff. It's all kind of AI driven. It's just amazing how fast this is all happening. It's what a time to be alive, boys.
It's insane. It just compounds. It's nuts.
I think like, as far as like, does the search box die? I think it probably, like when we say search box, we just mean searching a database, from an index, stuff comes up. I think there's always going to be a role for that in some ways. I think, what we had written down in the notes is sort of like, does the search box become cable TV, where it's just used by a whole lot less people for different, for less and less reasons, or is it blockbuster video where it actually dies? I think I lean towards cable. But I think in general, like the search box probably becomes basically like a chat box, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're all the time. Agree. And you access it probably through your personal portal kind of thing, right? And it like, I think the big unlock comes when we figure out like what our data actually means. When we figure out, okay, and I think that'll be one of the big shifts we'll experience, the Google experience, Meta will experience, is like as this privacy stuff all comes to a head, what's going to happen when people really understand how valuable their data is, and they might not have, and we have no other jobs. Like all of our jobs have been reduced, so we actually have to like monetize our data in a way to like survive. And that's how I see people. I see people lower on the economic spectrum having to give up more and more of their data, and then the higher you are on the economic spectrum, the more privacy you'll be able to afford. You won't have to, slave away on the metaverse or give up your biorhythms to big pharma or whatever. Right? You'll be able to keep You'll be able to keep that privacy. Privacy will be a privilege that you can afford versus on the that's one of my sci-fi predictions.
What an exciting future.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
You are out of liver enzymes. It's just nice. Okay, I keep taking us off the rails here. I know we're kind of coming up on the end here. Is there any? I just want, like, Ben, I don't know if you have any stored, but you're usually good for some hot takes. And I'm wondering if you have any like stored up hot takes about Google overall, about your experience there, about the future at Google, or just the overall e-commerce business. To put you on the spot.
I feel like Google gets. I feel everyone's always like when Google rolls something out, everyone's first. It's a negative thought at first. Like I even thought coming into this conversation, I think I like maybe pivoted your guys' thoughts on where you're at. Like I had like I'm gonna have to defend Google sort of thought coming into it. But like with things like GA4 was everyone's fucking nightmare, right. PMAX, everything that gets rolled out has like a negative first take by the community, and then like Threads come out and everyone's like, oh, I'm on Threads. Anything that Meta does is the best thing ever. And like I think but like since I guess I'm so deep in it, I see all of these things clicking together. Like we talked about PMAX fitting right into AI. Like, yeah. So like for me, I'm not laughing, but like I'm seeing all these things stacked together and like everyone's complaining and wants to go backwards, but it's like, you need to pivot. And like the publishers, like if they're going to complain, like they're going to be the blockbusters. Like, no, you need to think about how to get like, if you want to continue doing this, you need to pivot and keep up with the trends. So like, I think people are just quick to complain, and it seems to be all tied to Google all the time. I don't know why.
And as far as rollouts go, we like PMAX and I guess Advantage Plus even have been like the best in class. Like we've been in this industry over a decade each of us, and it's like the amount of rollouts that we've gone through, the amount of bumps. Like I would say that for all its bugs, like PMAX is one of the most promising rollouts that ad platforms ever had.
Right. Yeah. I mean, internally the rollout was a shit show.
Was it?
Nice. And also like for like the early customers, it was bad. But like, there's no way that every ad platform having this black box new performance campaign, like ASC, PMAX, TikTok has it, Pinterest has it, then GA4 also coming out, and then all this AI stuff coming out. There's no way that that's all a coincidence. Like, I do think something big is coming, whether it's an Apple change, and I know there's rumors, I haven't gone too deep, but like UTM's going away. Maybe there's a big privacy thing coming. There has to be a reason for all of these things to get really forced down people's throats, and like you got to embrace it, figure it out, and not just like wish that you could go backwards.
On like the that note, model with Google,
right.
It's like a shark; you can only go forward.
Exactly.
On that note, and just as kind of a thought experiment, I guess, or maybe a bit of a counter, Ben, do you think there is a potential black swan where, like, again, ChatGPT, I think, really woke everyone up. And Google, of course, has the most data and experience with indexing and whatever, but really, if it's kind of may the best algorithm win, is there a black swan potential here where Google is not the search box like starting place?
I just think people are so lazy and have their habits that to force people, like I'm using Chrome, I have Gmail, right. Like everyone is so ingrained that to rip that out, like it would have to be such a better alternative. Like I even think ChatGPT usage is way down. Like it was a shiny object, and it's come down.
Yep.
Like I think they have everyone, like they just have everyone hooked. So they could have a subpar experience and probably still win.
Once you reach verb status, once you're a full out cultural omnipresent
Yeah.
verb, you know, like to Google something,
Yep.
it's going to be hard to dislodge. It's always interesting to think of, like big seismic shifts that could come. And I still think in the tech industry in the next few years, there's going to be some, and there could be some bigger players to potentially fall as things consolidate. But I feel like Google, you know, it's funny. I was listening to Sergey, the fallout between Elon and Sergey about Sergey being like, you know, what was it like, speciesist. He called Elon speciesist essentially for wanting to promote the human species versus the AI species. I thought that. So I'm really interested. I'm always like, which billionaire are we going to bet on? Like the billionaire that wants us to have AI overlords or not? But I see Google being pretty firmly entrenched in the ecosystem and not going anywhere unless they somehow really fumble the bag, which I don't. See
yeah, they could. It's theirs to lose.
That's the thing. It's kind of like Kodak, right? Because Kodak invented their own demise. Like they invented the digital camera, and so part of me wonders with Google, with like again sort of generative AI. It's like okay, it's exciting, but it's like who knows? It's totally unpredictable. But stranger things have happened.
Nice. Very cool. Thanks for joining us on our second Avant Post podcast.
Yeah, it was so fun.
This was a lot of fun. We'll have to do this again. You can be our resident rogue ex-Googler.
Absolutely.
On the podcast.
No, it's awesome. Thanks so much, Ben.
Pleasure,
and is there
guys.
anywhere that you'd want people to get? I know you're big on Twitter, social media. Anywhere you'd want people to connect with you? They got their thoughts on Google or anything else?
Tweet me. I think it's a horrible username. Ben__ Kruger. And if you come across the other Ben Kruger, tell him that I want my domain back.
I will. I was just at this EDM festival, and there was a couple DJs that had 2 underscores. You can always tell it's a good DJ if they have more than 2 underscores in their name. So that's their ultimate hipster. So you're even more hipster than you know, Ben. Amazing.
Thank you guys. This was awesome.